Jake Morrison sat in his wooden chair by the window, watching the snow fall harder and harder. The wind howled around his small cabin in the Colorado mountains. He had lived here alone for 3 years now, after leaving the Marines. The quiet, life suited him just fine. The storm had started that morning and was getting worse by the hour. Jake had seen many storms in these mountains, but this one felt different. The wind sounded angry, and the snow was coming down so thick he could barely see his truck parked outside. He got up to add more wood to his fireplace. The warmth felt good against his face. Jake was a big man with strong hands and kind eyes. At 28, he had seen enough of the world during his time in the military. Now he just wanted peace. A loud crash came from outside. Jake froze and listened. It might have been a tree falling, but something about the sound was wrong. It was too sharp, too quick. He grabbed his flashlight and heavy coat from the hook by the door. Probably nothing, he said to himself. But Jake had learned to trust his instincts. Something was out there. He opened the door and stepped into the storm. The cold hit him like a punch. Snow whipped around his face, making it hard to see or breathe. Jake walked carefully around his cabin, following the beam of his flashlight. Near the edge of his property, about 50 yards from the house, he saw something that made him stop. 2 shapes lay in the snow, dark against the white ground. They were not moving. Jake ran toward them, his boots sliding on the icy ground. As he got closer, his flashlight showed him something impossible. 2 people lay unconscious in the snow, but they did not look quite human. Both had pale skin that seemed to glow softly in the dark. Their hair was long and silver white, and their faces were too perfect, too beautiful. They wore strange clothes that looked like they were made of metal and cloth mixed together. One was taller than the other, but both were clearly female. Jake knelt beside them and checked for breathing. Both were alive but very cold. Their lips were turning blue and they were shivering even though they were not awake. "Hey, can you hear me?" Jake called out, but got no answer. He looked around for any sign of how they got here. There were no car tracks in the snow, no footprints except his own. It was like they had fallen from the sky. Jake made a quick decision. He could not leave them out here to freeze. He picked up the smaller one first, surprised by how light she felt. Her skin was cold as ice. He carried her to his cabin and laid her on his couch near the fireplace. The wind was getting stronger when he went back for the second one. This one was heavier, but still easy for Jake to carry. He brought her inside and put her on his bed in the small bedroom. Both women were soaked through and freezing. Jake knew he had to get them warm and dry quickly. He found clean clothes, his old military shirts and pants that would be too big but warm. He also grabbed all his spare blankets. Jake turned his back while he carefully changed their wet clothes for dry ones. He tried not to look, giving them privacy even though they were not awake. Their strange clothes felt smooth but cold, nothing like any material he had seen before. Once they were dressed and covered with blankets, Jake built up the fire until his cabin was very warm. He made hot soup and coffee, hoping the smell might wake them up. Hours passed. The storm outside got worse, shaking the windows and making the whole cabin creak. Jake sat in his chair, watching over the 2 strangers. He wondered who they were and where they came from. Their skin still had that soft glow, and up close he could see their faces were not quite human. Their ears were slightly pointed and their features were too sharp and perfect. Near midnight, the smaller one opened her eyes. They were bright blue, almost glowing like her skin. She looked around the room, confused and scared. When she saw Jake, she tried to sit up quickly but fell back with a small cry of pain. "Easy there," Jake said softly. "You are safe. You were freezing outside in the snow." The woman stared at him and said something in a language Jake had never heard before. Her voice was musical but worried. She pointed to the bedroom and said more words Jake could not understand. "Your friend is in there," Jake said, pointing to the bedroom. "She is okay, just sleeping." The woman seemed to understand his tone, if not his words. She relaxed a little but kept watching Jake carefully. She touched a small device on her wrist and spoke to it. The device made soft beeping sounds. "I am Jake," he said, pointing to himself. "Jake Morrison." The woman listened to her device, which made more sounds. Then she spoke carefully in English, though her accent was strange. "I am Lyra," she said slowly. "You helped us?" "Yes," Jake said. "You were both freezing in the snow. I brought you inside." Lyra's eyes filled with something that looked like surprise. "You did not have to help." "Of course I did," Jake said. "No one deserves to freeze to death." Lyra stared at him for a long moment, like she was trying to understand something very confusing. Then the other woman called out from the bedroom, speaking in the same strange language. "That is Zara," Lyra said. "My sister." Jake helped Lyra stand up and walk to the bedroom. Zara was awake now, sitting up in bed. She was taller than Lyra, with the same glowing skin and silver hair. When she saw Jake, she spoke quickly to Lyra in their language. "She wants to know why." "You helped us," Lyra translated. "Because you needed help," Jake said simply. Both women looked at each other and spoke quietly. Jake could tell they were confused by his answer. "We will not hurt you," Lyra said finally. "I know," Jake said. "Are you hungry? I made soup." And so began 3 strange days as the storm raged outside. Jake shared his food, his warmth, and his home with 2 beings who were clearly not from Earth. He asked no questions about where they came from or why they were here. He simply took care of them as he would any person in need. It was the beginning of something that would change not just Jake's life, but the entire human race. 6 months had passed since that strange winter storm. Jake Morrison was back to his normal life, guiding tourists through the mountains and living quietly in his cabin. Sometimes he wondered if those 3 days had been real or just a very strange dream. The 2 women, Lyra and Zara, had been picked up by what looked like a military helicopter on the 4th day. But Jake had never seen a helicopter that moved so quietly or had such strange lights. The women had hugged him goodbye, and Lyra had pressed something small and warm into his hand, a smooth stone that glowed softly for a few minutes before going dark. Jake kept the stone on his kitchen table. It never glowed again, but it reminded him that those days had been real. On a sunny Tuesday morning, Jake was fixing his truck when a black car pulled up to his cabin. 2 people in suits got out. The woman was tall with short brown hair, and the man was older with gray at his temples. "Mr. Morrison?" the woman called. "I am Agent Lisa Stone from the Alien Relations Department. This is Agent Paul Grant. We need to talk to you." Jake put down his wrench and walked over to them. "Alien Relations Department? Never heard of it." "It is new," Agent Stone said. "We need to discuss your visitors from last winter." Jake's heart started beating faster. "What visitors?" "Princess Lyra and Princess Zara of the Veltar Empire," Agent A. Grant said. "They filed a report about your assistance during their emergency landing." "Princess?" Jake stared at the agents. "They said they were sisters." "They are royal sisters. And right now their mother wants to meet with you." Agent Stone opened a tablet and showed Jake a picture. In space above Earth, dozens of huge ships floated like metal cities. Each ship was bigger than anything Jake had ever imagined, with strange curves and glowing sections. "Queen Virith arrived yesterday with the Veltar fleet," Agent Stone explained. "She has asked specifically to speak with Jake Morrison." "Why?" Jake asked. "We were hoping you could tell us," Agent Grant said. "What exactly happened during those 3 days?" Jake told them about finding the women in the snow, bringing them inside, and taking care of them until they were rescued. The agents wrote down everything he said. "That's it?" Agent Stone asked. "You just helped them? What else would I do, let them freeze?" The agents looked at each other. "Mr. Morrison, most people would have at least asked questions. You gave shelter to unknown beings without knowing anything about them." Jake shrugged. "They needed help." Agent Grant shook his head. "The Queen wants to meet you this afternoon. She's waiting in the main ship." "In space?" Jake looked up at the sky. "They will send a shuttle. Please pack a bag." You might be gone for a while." That afternoon, Jake stood in a field near his cabin, watching a smooth silver craft land without making any sound. The door opened and Lyra stepped out. She looked the same as he remembered, beautiful and glowing, but now she wore clothes that were clearly expensive and royal. "Hello, Jake," she said with a smile. "Thank you for coming." "I didn't know I had a choice," Jake said. Lyra's smile faded, a little. "My mother can be demanding, but I am glad to see you again." Jake followed her into the ship. Inside, everything was white and silver, with lights that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Zara was waiting for them, also dressed in royal clothes. "Jake," Zara said happily. "You look well. So do you both. Though I have to say, you forgot to mention you were princesses." Both women looked uncomfortable. "We were not supposed to be on your world," Lyra explained as the ship lifted off. "We were running from people who wanted to hurt us. We could not risk telling you the truth." Through the windows, Jake watched Earth get smaller below them. Soon they were approaching the largest ship in the fleet. It was huge beyond belief, like a floating city made of metal and lights. Inside the main ship, Jake was led through halls that seemed to go on forever. Alien beings walked past them, all with the same glowing skin as Lyra and Zara, but wearing different clothes. Some stared at Jake like he was something very unusual. Finally, they reached a huge room with a high ceiling. At the far end, on a throne that seemed to be made of liquid light, sat Queen Virith. She was tall and beautiful like her daughters, but there was something scary about her. Her eyes were cold and sharp, and when she looked at Jake, he felt like she could see right through him. "So," the Queen said, her voice filling the whole room, "you are the human who sheltered my daughters." Jake walked forward. He had faced enemy, soldiers and dangerous animals, but this alien queen made him more nervous than any of them. "Yes, Your Majesty," Jake said. "They needed help." "Indeed." Queen Virith stood up from her throne. "Do you know what you have done, human?" "I gave them food and shelter during a storm." The Queen laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "You did much more than that. By our laws, when someone protects members of the royal family during their time of greatest need, that person has made a claim of guardianship." Jake did not like where this was going. "I didn't claim anything, I just helped. Intent does not matter. Action matters. You fed them, clothed them, and kept them safe for 3 days. By Veltar law, you now have the right and responsibility to marry both of my daughters." The room went silent. Jake stared at the Queen, then at Lyra and Zara, who both looked very uncomfortable. "I'm sorry." "What?" Jake said. "You will marry Princess Lyra and Princess Zara. This will make you a prince of the Veltar Empire and create a bond between our peoples. The ceremony will take place in 1 week." Jake felt his mouth go dry. "Your Majesty, with respect, I can't do that." Every person in the room gasped. The Queen's eyes turned dangerous. "Cannot or will not?" "Both," Jake said, his voice getting stronger. "Where I come from, people choose who they marry. It has to be because they love each other, not because of some law." "Love?" The Queen said the word like it tasted bad. "Marriage is about power, alliance and duty. Love is a luxury for common people." "Then I guess I'm common people," Jake said. "I won't marry anyone just because a law says I have to." The Queen stepped down from her throne and walked toward Jake. She was taller than him and much more scary up close. "Human, you do not understand. This is not a request. This is law. You have made a claim, and now you must honor it." "I didn't make any claim. I just helped 2 people who were in trouble. My daughters were not just people. They are royalty. Your actions have consequences." Jake looked at Lyra and Zara. Both women were staring at the floor, not meeting his eyes. "What do they think about this?" Jake asked. The Queen looked surprised by the question. "What they think does not matter. They will do their duty." "It matters to me," Jake said firmly. "In my world, what people think and want matters more than old laws." For a long moment, the Queen just stared at Jake. Then she laughed again, but this time it sounded more interested than angry. "You truly do not want power or status. Not like this. Not forced on me or anyone else. The Queen walked in a circle around Jake, studying him like he was some strange animal. Fascinating, she said finally. Very well, human. I will give you 1 month to think about this. My daughters will remain on your world as cultural ambassadors. At the end of that time, you will give me your final answer. And if I still say no, the Queen's smile was cold, then we will discuss the consequences. But I think you will change your mind. As Jake was led away to quarters for the night, he heard Lyra call softly after him. Jake, I'm sorry. He turned back to see both princesses looking at him with something like sadness in their glowing eyes. Jake realized his simple life in the mountains was over forever. Jake was back in his mountain cabin, but his life was anything but normal. Lyra and Zara now lived in a government safe house 20 miles away, but they visited him almost every day. The Alien Relations Department had assigned agents to watch them, but the agents mostly stayed hidden in the woods. The two princesses were learning about Earth by spending time with Jake. They wore human clothes now, jeans and sweaters that the government had bought for them, but their glowing skin and perfect faces still made them look like something from another world. This is very strange, Zara said, watching Jake cook breakfast on his old stove. On our world, servants prepare all food. I like cooking, Jake said, flipping pancakes. It's relaxing. Lyra sat at his small table, looking through one of his books. Jake, why do humans write so many stories about love? Because it's important. To us, Jake said. Love makes life worth living. Both sisters looked confused. In their world, marriages were arranged for political reasons. Love was something that might happen later if people were lucky. But how do you choose? Lyra asked. How do you know which person is right? Jake sat down with them and served the pancakes. You spend time together. You talk, you laugh, you see if you enjoy being with each other. You find out if you want the same things in life. And if your families disagree, Zara asked, then you have to decide what matters more, making your family happy or making yourself happy. The sisters looked at each other. This idea was very strange to them. Over the next few weeks, Jake showed them more of human life. They went to the small town nearby where people stared at the beautiful strangers but were mostly friendly. Lyra loved the library and spent hours reading human books. Zara was fascinated by the shops, amazed that people could buy whatever they wanted instead of being given things based on their social class. One day, Jake's friend Amy Chen came to visit. She was getting married the next week to her boyfriend of 5 years. You have to come to the wedding, Jake, Amy said, and bring your friends. Jake looked at Lyra and Zara. Would you like to see a human wedding? Both princesses said yes immediately. They had never seen a marriage ceremony based on love instead of politics. The wedding was held in the town's small church. Amy looked beautiful in her white dress, and her husband-to-be, Kevin, could not stop smiling. Jake sat with Lyra and Zara, explaining the ceremony as it happened. See how happy they look? Jake whispered. That's what marriage should be like. When Amy and Kevin said their vows, promises to love and take care of each other, both princesses had tears in their eyes. They chose this? Lyra asked softly. Yes. No one forced them. They decided they wanted to spend their lives together. After the ceremony, there was a party with music and dancing. Jake taught Lyra and Zara how to dance to human music. Both women were quick learners, and soon they were laughing and spinning around the dance floor. This is wonderful, Zara said, as they rested between songs. Everyone is so happy. That's because they're celebrating something good, Jake said. Amy and Kevin chose each other. Their families are happy because Amy and Kevin are happy. But Jake's peaceful time with the princesses could not last forever. Politicians from around the world were pressuring him to marry them. They wanted access to alien technology and feared what might happen if Jake said no. A senator from Washington came to visit Jake in his cabin. The man was fat and sweaty, and he kept mopping his forehead with a handkerchief. Mr. Morrison, you have to think about the bigger picture here, the senator said. These aliens have technology that could solve all our problems. Clean energy, space travel, medical advances. All you have to do is marry two beautiful women. I don't marry people for technology, Jake said firmly. But think about humanity's future. Think about what we could gain. Think about what we could lose, Jake shot back. If I do this just for power and technology, what does that say about us as a species? The senator left angry, but he was not the last visitor. Corporate executives, military officers, and diplomats all came to Jake's cabin. They offered him money, power, and fame if he would just do his duty to humanity. Jake turned them all away. Meanwhile, Lyra and Zara were changing. The more they learned about human culture, the more they questioned their own. They had grown up, believing that duty to family and state was more important than personal happiness. But now they were seeing a different way to live. Jake, Lyra said one evening as they sat by his fireplace, do you think we are wrong to feel confused about our duty? No, Jake said. I think you're normal. Everyone should question what they're told to do, especially when it affects their whole life. But we are princesses, Zara said. We have responsibilities. You also have rights. The right to choose your own path, to be happy, to decide who you want to be with. Both women were quiet for a long time. Our mother would be very angry if she heard us talking like this, Lyra said finally. Maybe she needs to hear it, Jake said. Maybe it's time someone told her that there are other ways to live. But their peaceful talks were interrupted by bad news from space. Agent Stone came to the cabin with a worried look on her face. Jake, we have a problem, she said. Our satellites are picking up more ships approaching Earth. They're not Veltar ships. Who are they? Jake asked. We don't know yet, but Queen Virath has moved her fleet into a defensive position. Something has her worried. Lyra and Zara looked at each other with fear in their eyes. If more ships are coming, Lyra said slowly, they might be from the faction that tried to kill us. What faction? Jake asked. Our uncle, Prince Mordak, has always wanted the throne, Zara explained. He hired assassins to kill us so that his son could marry a princess from another world and claim power. That's why we were fleeing when we crashed on Earth. And now he knows where we are, Lyra said. Agent Stone spoke into her radio. We need to move the princesses to a secure location immediately. No, Jake said firmly. They stay with me. Mr. Morrison, if there are assassins coming, then they'll have to go through me first, Jake said. His voice was calm, but there was steel in it that reminded everyone he had been a Marine. Lyra and Zara looked at Jake with something like amazement. He was willing to risk his life to protect them, even though he had refused to marry them. Jake, you don't have to do this, Lyra said softly. Yes, I do, Jake said. Not because of some law or duty, but because I care about you both, as people, as friends. As night fell, they could see bright lights in the sky where the alien fleets faced each other in space. The month that Queen Virath had given Jake was almost over, and now it looked like time was running out in more ways than one. Jake checked his rifle and made sure all the windows and doors were locked. If trouble was coming, he would be ready. But he had no idea that his simple act of protecting two alien women would soon lead to something much bigger than anyone could have imagined. The next morning brought more bad news. Agent Stone arrived at Jake's cabin looking tired and worried. The new ships belong to Prince Mordak, she told Jake, Lyra, and Zara. He's demanding that Queen Virath hand over the princesses to face trial for treason. Treason? Jake asked. For refusing their arranged marriages and running away, Lyra explained. Under our old laws, that is a crime against the royal family. But you were running for your lives. It doesn't matter, Zara said sadly. Uncle Mordak has used our escape to claim we are unfit to be princesses. He says we have been corrupted by human ideas. Agent Stone looked at her tablet. Queen Virath has refused to give you up, but Prince Mordak has brought 60 warships. The Queen only has 40. Jake stood up and walked to the window. In the distance, he could see more agents hiding in the trees around his property. Everyone was waiting for something bad to happen. There has to be another way, Jake said. What do you mean? Agent Stone asked. Jake turned back to face them. Everyone is thinking like this is either or. Either I marry the princesses or I don't. Either the queen wins or Prince Mordak wins. Either humanity gets alien technology or we don't. He sat back down at his table. But what if we change the whole game? Lyra leaned forward. What are you thinking? Your mother wants me to marry you to create a bond between our peoples, right? And Prince Mordak is using your refusal to marry as proof you're unfit to rule. Yes, both sisters said. So what if we give them what they want, but not the way they expect? Jake pulled out a piece of paper and started drawing. What if instead of me marrying you, we marry our civilizations, a formal alliance between Earth and the Veltar Empire with you two as permanent ambassadors? Agent Stone looked interested. Keep talking. Think about it, Jake said, getting excited. Your customs require a guardian for the princesses, right? Well, what if all of humanity becomes their guardian? We protect them, they help us learn about the galaxy, and everyone wins. Zara shook her head. But that doesn't follow our laws. Laws can change, Jake said firmly. That's what humans do when old laws don't work anymore. We make new ones that work better. Lyra and Zara looked at each other. The idea was so strange to them, but also exciting. Do you think it could work? Lyra asked. Only one way to find out, Jake said. But first we need to survive long enough to propose it. As if his words were a signal, alarms started going off. Agent Stone's radio crackled with urgent voices. Shuttle, approaching. Unknown contacts not responding to signals. Jake grabbed his rifle. Everyone get away from the windows. Through the glass, they could see a small silver ship landing in the field behind Jake's cabin. The door opened, and 6 figures in dark armor stepped out. Even from a distance, Jake could tell they were not friendly. Assassins, Zara whispered. The armored figures spread out and started moving toward the cabin. They carried weapons that glowed with strange energy. Basement now, Jake ordered. But before they could move, the front door exploded inward. The first assassin stepped through the smoke, his weapon aimed at the princesses. Jake moved faster than he had ever moved before. His rifle was up and firing before the assassin could react. The alien soldier fell backward, but more were coming. Through the door, Agent Stone was on her radio, calling for backup. All units, we are under attack. Repeat, the safe house is compromised. The cabin became a war zone. Assassins in armor fought against Jake, Agent Stone, and the other human agents who came running from the woods. Laser blasts burned holes in the walls while bullets flew in the other direction. Jake pushed Lyra and Zara behind his heavy wooden table. Stay down, he shouted over the noise of battle. An assassin appeared at the broken window, his weapon aimed at the princesses. Jake threw himself between them and the gun, feeling a burning pain as the energy blast hit his shoulder. Jake, Lyra screamed. But Jake was not done fighting. Even wounded, he rolled and fired, dropping the assassin. More human agents poured into the cabin, and soon the battle was over. As the smoke cleared, Jake sat on the floor holding his burned shoulder. Lyra and Zara knelt beside him, both crying. You could have been killed, Zara said. So could you, Jake said. That's what matters. Agent Stone was checking the dead assassins. These are Prince Mordak's elite soldiers. If he sent them, he's serious about this. Jake struggled to his feet, refusing help from the medics who had arrived. Then we need to be serious too. Get me a communicator. I want to talk to both the Queen and Prince Mordak. Jake, you're wounded. I'm fine. And I have an idea that might stop a war. An hour later, Jake stood in the ruins of his cabin speaking to 2 alien fleets through a quantum communicator. His shoulder was bandaged, but his voice was strong. On the screen, Queen Virith looked angry and worried. On another screen, Prince Mordak sneered with cold eyes. You killed my soldiers, human, Prince Mordak said. Your soldiers tried to kill innocent people in my home, Jake replied. Where I come from, that gives me the right to defend myself. The princesses are not innocent. They have broken our laws. Then maybe your laws are broken, Jake said calmly. Prince Mordak's face turned dark with rage, but Queen Virith looked surprised. Human, you speak boldly for someone who has caused so much trouble, the Queen said. Your Majesty, Prince Mordak, I want to propose something new, Something that honors both your laws and gives everyone what they really want. Jake took a deep breath. I propose a marriage of civilizations. A formal alliance between Earth and the Veltar Empire, with Princess Lyra and Princess Zara as permanent ambassadors and cultural bridges. Both alien rulers stared at him. This would satisfy the law requiring a guardian for the princesses, Jake continued. Humanity becomes their guardian civilization. It creates the bond between our peoples that Queen Virith wants, and it gives Prince Mordak proof that the princesses are fulfilling their royal duties. Ridiculous, Prince Mordak snarled. Marriage is between individuals, not worlds. Why? Jake asked. Your laws talk about bonds between peoples through royal marriage. This would be the ultimate bond, not just between families, but between entire civilizations. Queen Virith was quiet for a long moment. Continue, human. The princesses would serve as ambassadors, teaching your people about humanity and helping us learn about the galaxy. They would be fulfilling their duty to both our peoples, and they would be free to choose their own personal relationships based on love, not politics. Lyra stepped up beside Jake. Mother, I support this proposal. Zara and I have learned much about human culture. We could help our people learn new ways of thinking. Zara joined her sister. And we have seen that duty and personal choice don't have to be enemies. We can serve our people and still be free. Prince Mordak was shaking with anger. This is exactly the kind of corruption I warned about. These humans have poisoned your minds with their weak ideas about choice and freedom. Weak? Jake said, his voice getting harder. Prince Mordak, your soldiers just attacked innocent people and they lost. Our weak ideas about protecting others gave us the strength to defeat your elite warriors. Because you had weapons. Because we had something to fight for, Jake interrupted. Your soldiers were fighting for power and politics. We were fighting to protect people we care about, that's why we won. Queen Virith looked at Jake with new respect. You make an interesting point, human. Very well. I will consider your proposal, but Prince Mordak must also agree for there to be peace. Never, Prince Mordak said. I will take the princesses by force if necessary. Jake smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. You can try, but you just saw what happens when you threaten innocent people on Earth. And now you'll be fighting not just me, but all of humanity. As if summoned by his words, the sky filled with the sound of jets. Earth's military forces were arriving, ready to defend their world and their new alien friends. The real test of Jake's plan was about to begin. The attack on Jake's cabin changed everything. When news spread that alien assassins had tried to kill 2 princesses under human protection, people around the world were angry, but they were also impressed that one man had been willing to risk his life to protect strangers. Prince Mordak made a big mistake when he attacked Earth. He thought humans would be scared and give up. Instead, he united them. World leaders who had been arguing about Jake's situation now spoke with one voice. The President of the United States gave a speech that was broadcast around the globe. An attack on innocent people seeking shelter on Earth is an attack on all humanity, she said. We will not allow alien bullies to threaten anyone under our protection. In space, more ships arrived every day, but now they were human ships, launching from Earth with new technology that the Veltar had shared. The ships were small compared to the alien vessels, but there were many of them, and they were crewed by people who had something to fight for. Jake spent 3 days in the hospital while doctors treated his laser burn. Lyra and Zara stayed with him the whole time despite offers of more comfortable quarters elsewhere. You don't have to stay here, Jake told them. I know hospitals are boring. We want to be here, Lyra said firmly. You were hurt protecting us. Besides, Zara added, we are learning about human medicine. It is very different from ours, but also very effective. On the 3rd day, Queen Virith came to visit Jake in person. She arrived not in a warship, but in a small diplomatic shuttle. The Queen looked tired and older than before. Human, she said as she entered his hospital room. We need to talk. Jake sat up in his bed. Your Majesty. The Queen looked at Lyra and Zara. My daughters have been telling me about your proposal, this marriage of civilizations. And? is unusual, but then you are an unusual man. The Queen sat down in a chair beside his bed. Tell me truthfully, do you believe this alliance would benefit both our peoples? Jake nodded. I do. Your people have technology and knowledge we need. We have new ideas about freedom and choice that could help your society grow. Together, we could both become stronger. And my daughters? You truly have no desire to marry them for power? Jake looked at Lyra and Zara, both watching him carefully. Your Majesty, they are beautiful, kind, and intelligent women. Any man would be honored to be chosen by them, but marriage should be a choice made by both people involved based on love and respect, even if refusing means giving up great power, especially then. Power gained through force or law instead of choice always comes with a price. Queen Virith was quiet for a long moment. You know, in all my years as queen, no one has ever turned down power when I offered it. Then maybe you've been talking to the wrong people, Jake said with a small smile. The Queen laughed, and for the first time she sounded genuinely happy. Perhaps you are right. 2 weeks later, representatives from both civilizations met on Earth for the formal alliance ceremony. It was held in New York with diplomats from every human nation present. The ceremony was also broadcast live to the Veltar homeworld through quantum communication. Jake stood on the stage wearing a simple black suit. He had refused all offers of fancy military uniforms or royal clothes. Beside him, Lyra and Zara wore beautiful dresses that mixed human and Veltar styles. Queen Virith spoke first. Her words translated into dozens of human languages. Today we create something new, she said. Not a marriage between individuals, but a bond between civilizations. The Veltar Empire and the people of Earth will be allies, sharing knowledge and protecting each other. The President of the United States spoke next. We welcome our new friends from the stars. Together we will explore the galaxy and learn from each other. Then it was Jake's turn. He looked out at the crowd of humans and aliens all watching him. 6 months ago I found 2 strangers in the snow outside my cabin, he said. I helped them because they needed help. I didn't know they were princesses. I didn't know about laws or politics or alliances. I just knew that people were in trouble and I could help. Jake paused and looked at Lyra and Zara. That's what humans do. We help each other. We protect the innocent. We stand up for what's right, even when it's dangerous. He turned back to the audience. This alliance isn't about technology or power. It's about friendship. It's about learning from each other and becoming better together. The ceremony concluded with the signing of the Alliance Charter. Both Queen Virith and the world's leaders put their names on the document that would bind their civilizations together. But not everyone was happy. Prince Mordak had refused to accept the alliance. He still commanded 60 warships and threatened to attack Earth if his demands were not met. The confrontation came 3 days after the ceremony. Prince Mordak's fleet moved toward Earth, but they found more than just human and Veltar ships waiting for them. Other alien civilizations had heard about the alliance and Jake's story. Many of them were tired of Prince Mordak's bullying and threats. They sent ships to support the new alliance. Faced with overwhelming opposition, Prince Mordak finally backed down. He retreated to the edge of Veltar space, still angry but no longer a threat. Jake returned to his mountain home, but his life was very different now. The government had built a small communications center near his cabin, allowing him to speak with alien diplomats and help solve problems between different species. Lyra and Zara kept their promise to serve as ambassadors. They divided their time between Earth and the Veltar homeworld, helping both species understand each other better. They often visited Jake, bringing groups of young Veltar to experience human culture and learn about freedom and choice. One evening, as they sat around Jake's fireplace like they had during that first storm, Lyra asked him a question. Jake, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had said yes to the marriage? Jake thought about it. Sometimes, but I think this way worked out better. Why? Zara asked. Because this way everyone got to choose. Your mother chose to trust humans. The world's leaders chose to support the alliance. You two chose to become ambassadors, and I chose to do what felt right. And what about personal relationships? Lyra asked quietly. Do you think you will ever marry? Jake looked at both women. Over the months, he had grown to care for them deeply, but he had also seen them change and grow as they learned about freedom and choice. Maybe someday, he said, when I meet someone who chooses me for who I am, not because of laws or duty. Lyra and Zara looked at each other and smiled. Jake, Zara said carefully, what if someone had already made that choice? What do you mean? What if two someones had decided they wanted to stay on Earth permanently? Not as ambassadors, but as people who had found a home? Jake's heart started beating faster. And what if they had realized that the man who saved them was not just kind and brave, but also someone they could love freely without any laws or duties forcing them? Lyra took Jake's hand. We are not asking you to marry us because our mother demands it. We are asking if you would consider letting us court you the human way. Jake stared at them both. You want to date me? We want to learn about love the way humans do, Zara said, with choice and time and getting to know each other. Jake started laughing. After all the politics and battles and ceremonies, it came back to the simple human idea that had started everything, that people should choose their own path. I would like that very much, he said. Outside, snow was beginning to fall again, but inside the cabin, 3 people sat by the fire, talking and laughing as they got to know each other not as a human and 2 aliens, not as a man and 2 princesses, but simply as friends who might become something more. The alliance between Earth and the Veltar Empire grew stronger every year. Other civilizations joined, drawn by the example of cooperation and respect that Jake had inspired. And sometimes late at night, when Jake looked up at the stars from his mountain home, he remembered that stormy night when 2 strangers had needed help. One simple act of kindness had changed not just his life but the future of humanity itself. It just proved something Jake had always believed, that doing the right thing, even when it's hard, always leads to something good in the end.